Do you love flash fiction? Because if you do, I think you've come to a pretty good place. Welcome to the Prose Garden. I'm Francine Witte in New York City, and my co-host Meg, who you will meet in a few minutes, is in the UK, in Scotland to be exact. And today we have some great flash fiction readers for you. So welcome, sit back, relax, and get ready to be flashed. All right, I'm going to start us off. Meg and I usually start off with a couple of my prose just to kind of warm things up. So I'm going to read two. This one's called Jetty Explains the Universe. He starts like this. It's big and endless. I point out that nothing is endless, and he rolls his eyes. Jetty and I met a few years ago in an online chat room. We both had cats. Mine has since died. Jetty was born Chester. Chester, Chet, Jet, Jetty. He goes back to the universe. This is all the answer to the simple question I asked, where are we going? It's a girl question, I admit. Who knows, he says. He says we are floating matter, and no matter what anyone says, no one ever knows where they're going. I remind Jetty of our two cats and how they pretended not to know the other was alive. Mine a tabby and Jetty's a Siamese. Mine got out and ended up dead. The Siamese wouldn't eat for a week. They loved each other big time, I say. What about that? They were just cats and therefore totally random. Cats don't know anything, Jetty says. Yeah, well, my cat energy is floating around in the universe right now. She is purring into your ear. He goes to the fridge and pulls a beer bottle from the six-pack. I know the carton will stay there till I throw it away. He pops the top with his side teeth, something I am tired of warning him about. He waves the open bottle at me like a finger. Look, who cares where we're going? He swigs long and gratified. All gonna end up star matter. He likes that word, star matter. He likes it so much he ends the conversation there. Finite, done, not in any way like the universe. And the second one, the Miller's Barbecue. It is the night of the Miller's Barbecue, end of August ritual. Everywhere, summer loves are shutting down. Sheets being draped over hearts like they are vacation furniture. Mr. Miller, loan officer down at the bank, prods the burgers. They are nicely striped and ready to be turned. Mrs. Miller glides through the yard with the same swimmy elegance she uses in their pool. Blonde hair and midriff top, she fills the glasses with lemonade. Brett, the 19-year-old neighbor, stares at her thighs. She pretends she doesn't see him, pretends there were no late-night cricket nights in the garage while her husband slept, while her husband dreamed about interest rates and garden tools and, oh yes, Margaret. Margaret, who is right now waiting by the grill for her second burger and ends each conversation she has with Mr. Miller the same way. When are you going to tell her? Brett rattles his empty ice cube glass towards Mrs. Miller, who is talking to Frank Brown. I am thirsty, Brett whispers, and when she doesn't answer, he jumps fully clothed into the pool. When everything suddenly stops, where everyone suddenly stops what they're doing to watch this love-heavy boy sink straight to the bottom. Everyone except Margaret, standing alone now by the grill, watching the burgers sizzle down to coal, while Mr. Miller jumps in to save poor Brett. Brett, who flip-flops like a landed fish once he is back on the concrete. And just as Mrs. Miller starts to look at her husband, her hero husband, with an interest she hasn't shown in years, Margaret whispers into the burger smoke air, you know, now would be a perfect time. Thank you. Thank you so much. I see some nice comments on the chat, and I urge everybody to express themselves in the chat. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to my beautiful and talented and wonderful co-host, Meg Pokrass.
Thank you so much, Francine. Those were absolutely wonderful. I'm going to read just one micro that's in sections, and it was published yesterday in Flash Fiction magazine. It's called Circulation. Circulation. Sister Lillian tells you that she has a tear in her sock and that her big toe is not only cold, it's marble. Poor circulation, you say, and wish to wrap an arm around her shoulders. She sighs as if unhooking your invisible arm. It's frigid, she says, shivering. The two of you have been listening to the sound of cars honking like geese as you are tempted to park in a disabled zone. In many ways, this is us, you say, and she almost smiles. You've driven into town for toilet paper, the monastery is out of supplies, and you're the one with the driver's license. He never said life was a bed of roses, you remind yourself. You've been pacing again. Sometimes it feels as if Lillian has fallen from the moon. Some days her habit looks like a ruined flower. Some days she treats you like a wounded puppy. Some days you feel like her barely twinkling star. When you love someone silently, nothing can hurt them. It's not that different from praying. Something you've learned in the monastery, if nothing else. Some rituals are meant to be handled alone. Flossing teeth, walking in the mountains with headphones and an audio Bible, wondering if you could warm the coldest bare skin. And then one night, there she is, standing next to your unstable cot, wearing a pair of Jupiter slippers. What time is it, you say? What a strange thing to ask, she replies, sliding in next to you. Her tears are freezing. Bad eye circulation, she says. The tips of her fingers so cold you're scared. The cot rocking like an ill-advised ark. When you kiss each other, it feels as if the Lord has actually risen. And when she rises from the unforgiving starch of your sheets, you know it was never your fault. The way this angel of love stands beside you in the chapel, flapping her impossible wings. Thanks. And I'm going to turn it back now to my wonderful, wonderful, very experienced and glamorous co-hostess, Francine Witte.
Thank you so much, Meg. That was really wonderful. Okay, so I just want to mention, I always like to give a shout out to the Flash Fiction community that is here, who is not reading today. We have some wonderful Flash Fixers in the room. Jane Salmons, Catherine Silverhajo, Luella Lester, Calliope Palios, Jeff Harvey, Luann Castle, Jane Salmons, I said her twice, Patricia Bedard, Daniel Galef, Jamie Bond, and if I missed anyone, I'll catch you on the rebound, okay? Anyway, thank you so much for being here. We're honored to have you. And now I'm going to introduce David Galef. David Galef has published over a dozen books, including My Date with a Neanderthal Woman, Sank Short Story Collection Prize, and the novel How to Cope with Suburban Stress, Kirkus Best Books of the Year. He runs a creative writing program at Montclair State University and is editor-in-chief of Vestal Review. His flash collection, Death Comes to the CEO, is due out this September. David Galef.
Thank you. Just a brief note, Francine, it's Galef, just so you know.
I do know now.
That's okay.
Sorry.
All right, let me start. First of all, I mean, I've been writing, sorry, and publishing flash fiction for an embarrassingly long time, but I'm only now coming out with a collection, Death Comes to the CEO and Other Fiction, which should be out from the British-based Inspired Press sometime in September. The collection is all over the place, but I thought I would read, sorry, something in my throat. Sorry, I thought I would read the brief title story, Death Comes to CTO. Actually not the best in the collection, but I like the title. Then a nanofiction collage called Fathers, And then if there's time, and I have timed this, a run-on paragraph called Disenchanted. So, death comes to the CEO. I'd like to get back to you on this, said the CEO to Death, who had walked into his office unannounced. The CEO had spent the last 3 years at ValueCon, climbing back from bankruptcy, but regained ground is shaky. He was already in his early 70s, having reached that half-life where all he could hope for was to feel half decent for half the day. His life was punctuated by pills. On his desk was a list of things to don't. Death said nothing, but slid his scythe into the umbrella stand. He perched on the Laurel couch. The CEO reached for his cell phone, but the signal was dead. He cleared his throat. I may not be too young to die, but I've got meetings all through next week. He winced, his sciatica flaring up again. Death yawned, not too politely, stony teeth opening onto a cave of infinite darkness. Death is a great waster of data, thought the CEO, resisting a sympathetic yawn. Think of asset liability management, bulwarism, capital expenditure. The air inside the room flickered. A sound like really loud mysticism came from inside the walls. Maybe Death was trying to scare him to death. Death was now staring him in the face. The CEO recalled the maxim, everything is negotiable. He approached the seated figure. Dizziness crowded his vision, but he persevered. You know, you don't have to do this. Death looked away, as if pretending not to have heard. I'm sure we can reach an agreement. Death cocked his skull, as if to ask what the CEO had in mind. How about an incurable disease, something like a 5-year plan? I can work with that. What a word, dis-ease, as if ease were humanity's natural state. Death cocked his skull in the other direction, as if to ask, what's in it for me? He rose and reached for his scythe. The CEO thought hard. What does Death want? A willing maiden? The CEO knew a procurement agency. Better PR? Social media could handle that. A day off. Maybe he could take Death for a round of golf at Cypress Point. Death smiled, a rictus like a badly sutured wound, and the CEO realized he'd been talking out loud. Death leaned toward the CEO and whispered into his ear. The CEO blanched and swallowed hard, but nodded. Details for the merger and acquisitions document are available at www.deathandcompany.com. Okay, that's one. The next one, as I say, is a nanofiction collage of sorts called Fathers. Time and space. When I was a child, my father's arm was long as a bridge. Now it can't span the distance between the chair and the medical alert button. A dose of your own medicine. Wellbutrin, supplemented by Abilify, replaced Prozac. Lithium came next. My father said all I needed was a good kick in the pants. Years later, my father is on so many pills, he keeps them in a miniature tool chest and has to be prodded to take them on time. Lesson. Now that I'm old, my father told me, I forget things, like why I ever got married. Me, I reminded him. Asleep. People think I killed my octogenarian dad on Father's Day, but that's not true. It was the day after, in my dreams. Moderation. As a man in his 30s, all my father could think about was pleasure. All he can focus on now that he's 80 is pain. Somewhere there must have been an in-between. Conjugal visit. My mother died one morning in the assisted living facility, wrapped in the sheets like a mummy. What I want to know is whether my father slept there that night. Fairy tale. We lived uneasily ever after. The evil stepmother had won the custody battle, but the dragon remained at large. Cannibalism. I had to look up to see all of her, the woman who'd finally eaten my father. Her RN name tag was illegible. Fun and games. At 83, hypertensive, confined to a wheelchair, and half blind from glaucoma, Dad still shouted at people and gave them the finger. He said he liked to test limits. Joke. My father died last week at 83. He died alone in a latex fright mask he bought at Walmart for $7.95. And finally, promise. The night my father died, he was having trouble breathing, terrified. I held his hand and told him I'd return in the morning. Here I am. Okay, and now for the coda, a little funnier in some ways. It's called Disenchanted. It is sort of one long run-on paragraph. So, and I had fun writing it, if that means anything. Disenchanted. And I, an old citizen of Elvenbloom, a village ruled by two irascible warlocks named Jack and Not Jack, its citizens composed of those who work magic and those worked upon. The morning air misted with spells of transformation, boy bewitched into cabbage, girl into swine, and dusk lit by counterspells of restoration, though not always complete. Boy retains green ears, girl grunts. Parents of an unruly child hoping for a changeling. The market folk purveying everything from birth charms to deadly relics and supernatural fava beans. The blacksmith and baker at times aided by blue and green fairies, at other times frustrated by trolls. The town well inhabited by a frog prince who croons, "Kiss me," with no takers. The local school presided over by a witch who has punished bad students with 100 years of detention. The public library loaning out grimoires and thaumaturgy treatises. The annual festival of mirth with its forced cachinnation. The doctor with the devil knows what in his handbag. The lawyer who speaks with a serpent's tongue. The therapist offering necromancy sessions for dissatisfied couples. Youth lying entwined on the village green in summer while experiencing the enchantment of youth. The pharmacy advertising a drastic sale on love potions. Talking cats roaming the streets, though without much to say for themselves. Dogs who are just dogs. The town not far from the lair of where the dragons noisily mate every spring. The moiety of us all, too often bewitched, bothered, and bewildered. I long for a municipality with a just and equitable system of government, a democracy in harmony, presided over by elected officials, and a board of impartial judges with no hint of invisibility. But that, I know, is a magic wish that will never come to pass. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David Galef. I will remember that as I remember to not say France instead of France, as they were doing during the Olympics. I was getting me crazy. So thank you so much for reading for us today, David. Where can we read more of your work, and where can we get your upcoming book?
The work is all over the web, as I'm sure all yours is. There is a website, www.davidgalef.com. A tweet from @dgalef. You're also please invited, those are a separation of church and state, at Vesta Review, which I think is an excellent flash fiction venue.
It's a wonderful.
And finally, the book it's weird. It's imp-spired, as in gargoyle, by a guy named Cowte, C-A-W-T-E. And it should be out in late September, and that's, I'm afraid, all I can tell you. So.
Well, thank you so much for reading with us today, David.
Sure.
And thank you. We look forward to reading your new book. Okay. Next, we are going to hear from Amy Marquez. Amy Marquez has been known to call books friends and is on a first-name basis with many fictional characters. She's been nominated for multiple awards, long-listed twice in Wiggly 50, and has visual art, poetry, and prose published in journals such as Street Cake Magazine, South Florida Poetry Journal, Fictive Dream, Unlost, Ghost Parachute, Bright Flash, Literary Review, Chicago Quarterly Review, and Gone Lawn. She's the editor and visual artist for the Duets Anthology and author and artist of the Erasure Poetry books Parts with Full Mood Publishing, and more at Amy Book Whisperer at WordPress. And Amy will tell us a little bit about her upcoming book afterwards, if she would. Okay, Amy Marquez.
Thanks, Francine. Thank you for inviting me. Unlike David, I did not time this, so I'm checking the clock now, and I'll stick to my, so I'm going to read a little micro first, and then I did want to share parts, so prepare yourself for kindergarten energy, show and tell. So my first story was actually in slow flow, and it's a little micro called Dear Goldilocks. Dear Goldilocks, of course I remember you. One doesn't soon forget coming home to half-eaten food and a girl sleeping in the baby's bed. Yes, we are well. My son grew larger than his late father and found a nice upstream bear. They've set up house together and are expecting cubs in the spring. I'm looking forward to being a grandmother, as you might imagine. I was surprised by your letter and your questions. I'm sorry to hear that your motherhood has been difficult for you and that your own mother has been away for most of your life. I can appreciate how hard that must be. How did you put it? How did I master just right? What an interesting perception. If you'd asked me, I'd have told you that I could never get anything right in those days. My own porridge was always cold because I never seemed to get to it in time to eat it hot. I learned the trick of overnight oats when my son was older and took to reheating it for myself only when I knew I'd have enough time to enjoy it before it cooled again. But that took years. In the early days, I was always tired, always a little behind, maybe a little unhinged. It gets better, I can promise you that. In the meantime, it gets lonely in the house now, and I would love to have you and your baby come for a visit. I will make you honeyed porridge, and I can hold the baby while you take a nap in the bed you remember so well. Yes, the same blanket is still there. I'll wash it in anticipation of your visit. With open arms and doors, Mama Bear. And in response to David's bewitched, bothered, and bewildered, I actually have a page in Parts that is that. So Parts is a Thomas Wolfe actual hardback book, and I did erasure poetry on every single page, and I had to deconstruct the book. So here you're seeing loose pages in order to take pictures to kind of publish the book. And this page, if you can all kind of see it, the poem in this one is Blazing, Beaming, and Bewildered. And it was kind of a response to the bewitched, bothered. It's hard to visualize here, but like every page has painting and things like that. So can I share my screen?
1 second.
If not, I'll just hold the book closer, but this is Parts as an actual book. It's now already available. And I was going to read 3 of the poems for you.
Okay, Amy, if you want to request to share
Yeah, I requested, and it says it's
the
disabled.
screen, and then I can give you permission.
Okay.
Go to share screen and then ask for permission,
did.
and I'll give you permission.
Okay, I did. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay, I can't. So just show it to us. Yeah.
Okay. So here, for instance, is a page. Is that visible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the poem in that one is A Woman's Solitary Pleasures, Cultivated Little Quiet Time. Or this one, for instance. So I painted on top of the pages themselves, and this one is Delight, and yet nobody ever asks me how. Downward, here and here, down, slowly, the woman was like no one else on earth. And the last one, this one. And this one is an homage to all of you. Did you see the magic you can make restless poets? Couldn't you tell? So let us remain all restless poets. And I'll pop the link. The book is available in both PDF and print, but there's also several pages published as visual art or as visual or found poetry in different places. And I'll put the link to the to some of those pages in the chat. Thank you. And thanks for letting me share it.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm sorry I didn't, I'm not quite that techno to like think on my feet how to do the share screen of another participant. So I apologize. But just so you know, this book is really amazing. And I don't think, Amy, did you emphasize that the paintings are by you?
Yeah, I did all the paintings and collage, and I'll actually link this little essay. The part that was meaningful to me as well was that I started doing it kind of by accident, and I had never done art before. So this book is also like me becoming an artist. So it's a becoming. Like, some of you know me as visual artist, but I didn't even own a paintbrush when I made the first pages. Most of them started with like Q-tips and fingertips and children's finger paints, and it was it's a story of becoming. And the fun part was realizing about on page 3 that I didn't always like what I did, but like life, I was doing the whole book, so if I didn't like a page, I couldn't just rip it out and start over. So I learned to kind of like layer, and it was also in a way a good journey as an artist to understand that you can't start over. There is no such thing as a blank slate. Even the stories that we're like, okay, I'm scratching this and doing it over, our drafts and our life and our backstories and our mistakes all bleed into everything we become. So kind of leaning into our weird and our quirks and our vulnerabilities and our messes. So this book is a celebration of that, of like just how like sometimes it's the mess that makes things beautiful. So if you go through it, like anybody who knows anything about visual art will see how amateurish it is. But I think the part of the fun is in that process. Like I said amateur once to Matt K, and he said, yes, an amateur is somebody who loves what they do. So it's full of love. And I was like, yes, this is full of love. So.
Well, it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful mess, if that's what you're going to call it. So thank you so much, Amy. And please, everybody, I urge you to check out this book. It's really quite stunning. Okay, I also want to, before I move on, welcome other people in the Zoom room here. Fanny Gray, who's also a flash fiction writer, and urges us to get off of X, which is not a drug. Well, it could sort of a drug. Lily Binda, Diana Rosen, Deborah Galef, Don Bogan, sorry, Melinda Boudreau, Phoebe Larson, Beth Winehouse, and my beautiful aunt, Miriam Mandel. We know that you have a million other things you could be doing today, so we really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. Next, I'm going to welcome Andrea Marcusa. Andrea Marcusa's work has appeared in Gettysburg Reviews, Cutbank, River Styx, River Teeth, Citron Review, and others. She's received recognition in a range of competitions, including Glimmer Train, Cleaver, and Smokelong. She's a member of the faculty at the Writers' Studio. Andrea Marcusa.
Thanks, Francine, and thanks, Meg, and thank you all for being here. And if my voice cracks in the middle of this, I'm on the tail end of COVID, and so just bear with me. I've got my water here. I'm going to read something pretty short as a result. It's called Slush. How I remember the slush, gray, wet, and the tone of your voice, how defiantly you hung up, my words so timid, anything but brave, knowing you valued bravery, even though at that moment I could not be brave, could not stay with you through your trial. It was so clear that you had lied to me, and all the money you had lavished upon me champagne, diamond rings, trips to Mystique you'd stolen not from a corporation, but from timid old ladies and men who didn't know any better when you told them to buy some financial instrument, your impressive term. And being only 24, I couldn't ruin my life because of you, my parents' words. And I felt ashamed for picking my life over yours, despite how I loved you, despite not being sure if I could survive without you. And when your brother called to tell me about you, I laughed because your brother was known for teasing me, calling me gullible, which I was. And because it was your brother, I didn't mind the teasing. And I knew I could call his bluff by phoning you or driving over to your parents, even though you and I had already split. Not that I wanted to see your parents because they hated me, coward that I was, and so I never saw you there in the ICU. But I'd already saved your life once, dragged you through the exhaust in the barn from the tractor into the slush outside, and then I'd run and run to your imperious father and watched him rub your face with slush. And now I cannot look at gray slush or smell exhaust without thinking of you lying there unconscious, fearing what I was sure I could not survive, and knowing if I had been brave, maybe you would still be here, and how I couldn't even go to your funeral because the handgun in your mouth was because of me, because I lacked the courage to stick it out. And you were right. I'd been there for the nights in clubs, dancing and drinking and doing lines and walking hand in hand, watching the sky brighten, the two of us planning the sunrises we would see together over every ocean in the world. And how I told you I could never live without you. And you laughed, saying that you thought I'd be fine because I always found firm ground, because I was timid and practical. And later, as the calls and texts began, and Facebook and Instagram posts trended, so many photos of your life and me and most of them, I had to shut off from the internet and silence my phone, because how many times could I tell people that we'd broken up? How many times could I bear the pauses, the silence pointing a finger at me, the one that said, "So it's your fault," he blew his brains out. And I think about that while think about what I was doing while you were in the barn at daybreak, your parents sleeping in the house. The only way for you to stay out of jail before your trial was in their custody, you being only 24 years old, barely out of college, and already up to your neck in so much trouble. And then you ended it all, just as I was stretching my legs, waking to another day without you, and my eyes opening, my heart breaking all over again. But like you said, I lacked the toughness to stick it out, and feeling such shame at my weakness. You knew me so well, feeling sorry for myself while you were 100 miles away, loading your gun, closing your eyes to a life that had barely begun. How I always wanted to call your brother and your mother and hug them and tell them I was sorry, but I couldn't because I was so mad and then furious with your father for not trying to get you help, and your mother for being too afraid to go against your father, even though I believe she wanted to, even though I begged your father after your first attempt in the barn with the tractor, how you stumbled with him back to the house, how he made you walk, pushed you, how he hurried behind, how I hurried behind, how he refused to believe you needed help. Instead, your father said it was more manipulation, that you were the master, something I couldn't accept. But he was older and wiser and had known you your entire life. And what did I know? There was so much I didn't know back then. Even 5 years later, each time I think of you, each time I see slush or smell exhaust, I remember everything like yesterday. But it's what they say about first love, that you never forget it. And so today I searched the internet for your brother, but he's vanished. No electronic footprint anywhere. The only mentions I found were your parents' obits. Your father finally succumbed to his cancer and your mother to heart failure. And I thought, a broken heart, because she had loved you like I did, but she had the courage. She didn't turn away from you. And now I'm left with the smell of exhaust and the feel of that cold gray slush seeping into my boots, turning me numb.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andrea. It was amazing. Where can we read more of your work? Because I know we want to.
Oh, I'm at andreamarcusa.com. And I think at some point I have a chapbook coming out, but I don't have any information yet. So
Well, we certainly look forward to that. And please find Andrea, read more of her work. I wanted to go back and just mention that both books that were previously mentioned, David Galef and Amy Marques, I had the pleasure of writing blurbs for. So I know in both cases how wonderful these books are. That's I had this like special privy, to them. So please, please, please check them out. Again, thank them for being here. Next, we're going to hear from Claudia Monpere, who writes and teaches in the San Francisco Bay Area. Her writing appears in Split Lip, The Forge, Craft, Smokeland Quarterly, Atlas and Alice, Milk Candy Review, Tramp Set, and elsewhere. She received the 2023 Smoke Blowing Workshop Prize and will appear in Best Small Fictions 2024. Claudia Monpere.
Hi, Francine and Meg, thank you so much for including me. And I've heard such wonderful readings today and look forward to more. And everybody, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to read 3 micros. Why I didn't immediately load the car when my husband texted that the fire was getting closer. Because he'd be upset if I didn't save the right suits. But I couldn't remember if his Catan or Kirid suits were the luxury ones. Because the twins' favorite toys, Legos and a train set, were scattered about, and there was no time to gather them. Because although the sky was orange and smoky, I couldn't see flames yet. Because the baby needed feeding, and my nipples were cracked and bleeding, and there was never time for warm compresses and lanolin. Because my mother-in-law's dark oil landscapes, my husband's first edition Hemingways, his collection of antique surgical instruments. Because singed pages of books hadn't yet drifted from the sky into the children's sandbox. Because Sonny, the standing human skeleton from medical school, was too bulky to pack. And when my husband and I argued, he thought it was funny to bring her out and make her talk shit to me. Because embers and hand-sized ash flakes hadn't yet fallen. Because once I got the twins and the baby and our bunny Sasha and our 2 cats in the car, maybe I wanted everything else to burn. Ballet class. The pink walls breathed princess. Shiny white crown molding and wainscoting, huge, elegantly framed photographs of little girls in pink tutus, their bodies in perfect 1st through 5th positions. We felt sorry for the new girl. The mother, an older mother, arrived late in sweats, a baggy t-shirt, a backpack, on her arm a large seahorse tattoo. The little girl, Leona, wore a ridiculous rainbow tutu instead of a ballet skirt. She didn't even have her hair properly pulled back. We immediately understood why this woman and her mother, those perfect rose bushes, had been estranged. Yet she'd inherited the house. We went out of our way to be nice, giving the woman a scrunchie for her daughter's hair, one of those nice satin ones, and offering her a chair in the area where we watched our little ones dance across gleaming oak hardwood floors. No, she preferred to sit alone working on her laptop, as if she were more important than us. She researched seahorses, we learned. Leona didn't seem to care that her mother only looked up a few times, waving, And after class, Leona captivated our girls, explaining that male seahorses give birth. Well, we rushed them away. Our girls, they danced through the years. We had affairs and work done on our faces, joined book clubs, then quit, then rejoined, watched ballet recitals. Our girls, snowflakes. Leona, the snow queen, her movements more graceful than all the girls put together. Her mother always in mishmash clothes, clapping wildly. The diving accident shocked us. A relative took Leona away. We got old. Then one night on stage at the San Francisco Ballet, there she was, our Leona. Seahorse courtship, a pas de deux. Her fluid body both wave and ripple. We could never name what we felt. And I'll close with after. After and after and after, and nothing changes, just the names of the children. This one drew birds wearing hats. That one had an orange juice popsicle for an imaginary friend. The parents cradle these shards. The communities create tributes, favorite superheroes, favorite colors, photographs, flowers, candles. The politicians offer words and guns for teachers. Someone builds a school garden for resilience. The live children and the ghost ones plant pole beans, sugar snap peas, squash. They plant carrots and sunflowers. They watch giant yellow suns shoot to the sky. They watch tiny yellow flowers bloom, shrivel, turn to tiny cucumbers. Everything grows. The children harvest and eat. They make art in the garden, study insects, prepare salads. But it's the vines that fascinate them. Tendrils gripping, the strength of suckers, leaves, stems, far stronger than any fruit or vegetable. Long after harvest, the vines keep growing. At recess, that's where the children cluster. No hopscotch or dodgeball, no slides and monkey bars. Attempts are made to prune the vines, then remove them. But they only grow faster, stronger, creeping across the schoolyard and into the street. It's a long trip to Washington, D.C., and the children ride their vines, who are gentle ponies by night, swaddling the children in leaves as soft as flannel. The ghost children lullabying them to sleep. By day, the vines cheetah, the children and ghosts giggling, safe in tendrils. They vine through the gun shops, transforming steel and aluminum into whatever color the children choose. Yellow wax beans and crookneck squash in one shop, zucchini and green peppers in another. The White House and Capitol building are close. The tanks and rockets are close. But see how the vines are already climbing steps, thickening, wrapping themselves around walls, ready to bloom and fruit, or do something else, whatever is necessary. And the children, the little ghosts, they're scattered across the land, composting the soil, planting seeds, waiting for the harvest. Thank you.
Oof. Thank you, Claudia Monpere. Claudia, where can we find more from you?
I don't have a website, but I'm hoping to get one up in the late fall. But I have something, a CNF that came out in Tramset yesterday,
Okay,
and a piece called Gerlachs that came out recently in Split Lip. So just check the internet.
great. Thank you. Those are two great stories, by the way.
Thank you.
This first half has been powerful, devastating, imaginative, just really, gripping. I've just been hanging on every word. And we're only half done. Imagine that. Okay, So here to take us through the rest of the program to delight you even further is our wonderful Meg Pokrass.
Thank you, Francine. Oh my gosh, those stories were just so amazing. I'm just so overwhelmed by the amount of talent here tonight, and it's an honor to be co-hosting this. So I'll go ahead and introduce our next reader. It's Jessica Klimesh. Jessica Klimesh is a US-based writer whose flash fiction appears or is forthcoming in Flash Frog, Ghost Parachute, Tramp Set, Gone Lawn, Cleaver, and Gooseberry Pie, among others. Her work has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize, Best Microfiction, Best Small Fictions, and Best of the Net. Learn more at jessicaklimesh.com. Entitled, oh, sorry, that's something funny with the bio. Sorry about that. Gosh, I think that's it. Is that it, Jessica? Sorry. I think they ran together the bios. How awkward. Welcome.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Meg, and thank you, Francine, for having me. I'm going to read 3 short pieces. The first one was published in Gooseberry Pie earlier this year, called Fitting In. She was terrified of small spaces, of keyhole openings and elevators with room for only one. So she bought a shoebox to live in and shrunk herself in the dryer. You have to face your fears, her therapist had said. She decorated the shoebox with doll furniture and glitter like a grade school diorama, then moved herself to a community of miniatures, where her Fisher-Price neighbors marveled at her limbs and realistic facial features. You're not like us, they said. She said, no, of course not. And then, as if to prove it, she dressed and danced in togas of Kleenex, remembering how years ago she'd stuffed her bra with tissues, how all her friends did too, just trying to fit in. And the second piece, slightly longer than that one, is Herd Mentality. This was published in Flash Flood earlier this year, or earlier this summer. Herd Mentality. For some reason, we think no one will notice, because we're a group, united as one. For some reason, we think no one will call security. For some reason, we've decided to do this. Streak through a bustling shopping mall in the middle of the afternoon, completely naked except for running shoes. For some reason, we think it's a good idea, collectively. When they ask us later, none of us will be able to say whose idea it was because we'll all think it was ours, our own original idea, our own unique idea. For some reason, we watch them, this group of naked people, as they run past us, as we shop at Macy's, The Gap, K-Jeweler. We wonder if it's some kind of prank. We wonder if we should call security. For some reason, though, none of us do. For some reason, we all think someone else will, that maybe someone else knows something that we don't. When they ask us later, none of us will be able to say how old they were. We'll say high school age, college kids, middle-aged adults, and we'll say they were barefoot, wearing sandals, wearing boots. We'll say their hair was long, short, blonde, black, red, ponytails, braids, buzz cuts. When they ask us later, we won't even be able to agree on whether they were male, female. But even as we argue about the details, we'll all agree that there was nothing original or unique about them, nothing that stood out. When they ask us later, we'll say it was the damnedest thing, how they all just looked alike. And the last piece was published in Funicular recently. And this is Almost Human. The boy who asked you to the 7th grade dance must not have known you were an extraterrestrial, a being born into another life and time, just visiting Earth. And he must not have known your scorching fear of being found out. Because at your old school, you couldn't even get away with wearing a shirt with a tiny hole in it, imperceptible to most. A shirt your mom had picked up at a resale shop because she wouldn't pay full price for anything while you were still growing. And though the boy who asked you to the dance wasn't pretentious like the kids at your old school, not at all, He might have wanted to kiss or touch you when you danced, and you knew that any touch at all would expose your Martian skin, so you said no when he invited you, and nothing else. The boy in college who kissed you on the couch in your apartment after writing you a poem asking if he could, in fact, kiss you, didn't care that you were from another planet, and in fact said he appreciated that side of you the most because it brought out his own uniqueness, so much so that he said, let's be exclusive. But first he gave you some pointers on how to kiss better, like a human, because he said that was the only thing missing. And you really didn't mind because you had finally been accepted by someone who knew your deepest secret, who had touched your coarse alien skin but loved you anyway and would never tell anyone, even after the two of you eventually broke up. The man you meet one night while howling at the moon in a cornfield, waiting for your ride back up to space after all this time, joins you in your feral wailing, as if maybe he knows, or is possibly a Martian too, then asks if he can go with you. And when you say no, you're reminded of that boy in 7th grade to whom you gave no explanation when he asked you to the dance, just said no and let the phone go dead because your mom was standing right there. And you don't even think you said sorry because people don't say sorry where you're from. But now you've learned human ways and know better. So you say sorry to the man in the cornfield, who seems surprised, shocked even. And then as explanation, you tell him that maybe you won't leave after all, that maybe you've decided to stay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. They were absolutely wonderful. Where can we find more of your work?
I have a list of my publications on my website at jessicaklimesh.com.
That's great. Thank you so much, and thanks for being here with us tonight.
Thank you.
Next up is, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Timothy Boudreau.
We emphasize Boudreau, but it's good either way.
Oh, okay, I should have asked you.
It's all good.
Timothy Boudreau lives in northern New Hampshire. His collection, Saturday Night, is available through Hobblebush Books. His novel, All We Knew Were Our Hearts, is due out from ELJ Editions in 2026. Exciting. He is an editor at The Loveliest Review. Find him on Twitter at TC Boudreau or at timothyboudreau.com. Welcome, Timothy.
Thank you very much. Grateful to be here. Thank you, Francine and Meg. I'm going to read Postcards. This was originally published in Gone Lawn earlier this year. There must be falcons, ospreys, prehistoric taloned sea raptors native only to this corner of southern Maine. It can't be just seagulls. The box of Triscuits and bag of Ruffles torn out of a beach bag, strewn across the sand, crab carcass remnants, shattered shells, scattered legs, soft deliciousness of the poor creature's life ripped apart, consumed, flown away with. Hot sand, salty sea spray, sunburnt ears and nose, taste of lemon gummies glued in his teeth, citrus at the back of his throat. Chris feels everything closing in as he dashes across the sand toward the motel with his flip-flops in his hand, screaming internally, "Help me, help me, help me." Melissa's husband slides the glass door open, drops his flip-flops on the floor, scatters sand as he collapses into the corner chair. The birds, the sun, it's too much. Nose and forehead burnt, eyes wide, like he got into the edibles before his morning beach walk. Fucking huge. Apex predators. Calm down, Chris, Melissa says. Their kids are across the room, tugging on their water shoes. I'll get some ice. Isn't it early for that? Their daughter Kendra, 12 but sounding 17, looks at them over the top of her glasses, helping her little brother Tyler with his shoes. It's just for ice water, Melissa says. Don't worry, Kay. But she's already out the door with a bucket, thinking of the tall guy in room 313. Thick, dark hair, curly treasure trail from his navel to his swim trunks. Promise of tequila bottles waiting in his room. Who told her he'd be at the pool at noon. Don't be late. It's so sunny, Tyler says. The far end of the beach is strewn with seashell bits, shards of driftwood, crushed crab shells. Don't take your water shoes off, Ty, Kendra tells him. You might hurt your foot. But I want to go back to the room. Tyler shields his eyes. It's too hot. Kendra unfolds her towels, spreads them on the sand, weighs them down with rocks at the corners. We don't want to be there yet. We'll just swim and cool off. You think Dad's feeling better? Tyler asks. Sure, he just needs to rest. Mom will probably keep checking on him. Tyler shakes his head, but this seat is scary. Don't worry, Ty, I'll hold your hand. It's nearly high tide. The waves are crashing. There's red seaweed everywhere. Seagulls scream, swirl closer. Tyler licks his lip and looks up with wide eyes. Kendra's sigh is weary, like her mother's. I won't let you go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Timothy. I know you mentioned it in your bio, but can you tell us all again where we can read more of your wonderful work?
Sure. Like everyone else on the internet, but timothyboudreau.com would be the best place to go to start. And there are links to everything there. So
Great. Okay. Thanks so much.
thank you very much.
Next up is Jayne Martin. Jayne Martin is a Pushcart Best Small Fictions and Best Microfictions nominee and recipient of Vestal Review's Vera Award. She is the author of Tender Cuts, a collection of microfiction from Vine Leaves Press, and The Daddy Chronicles, memoir of a fatherless daughter, published by Whiskey Tit Books. She lives in California, but dreams of living in Paris. Her website is www.jaynemartin writer.com, sorry. And on Facebook, Jayne Martin Author. And on Twitter, @Jayne_Martin. Welcome, Jayne.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to take a little walk down memory lane because my collection, Tender Cuts, the anniversary is coming up. It's been out for 4 years and is still available. So I'm going to read the piece. The first piece is the one that won the Vestal Review Award. And maybe you have heard it, or maybe not, but here goes. When the bough breaks. If they don't get here soon, he is sure he will bust wide open. The bright yellow lily he picked for her early this morning was already starting to wilt in the muggy heat of the Iowa noon. Seems like it was just spring when his father had carried him up the ladder to the thicket of juniper branches where 4 tiny spotted eggs rested among the carefully arranged twigs of a sparrow's nest. It's no bigger than that right now, his father had said. He'd seen babies before, watched as his Aunt Ellen grew large and round as a pumpkin with his cousin Ray. He knew they took a lot longer to hatch than sparrows. His mother, too, had grown large and round as a pumpkin. Some days she could barely get off the sofa. Her ankles had become thick purple rivers, emptying into swollen pounds of flesh that he would rub as she stroked his head and called him her good boy. She's going to depend on you to protect her, you know, his mother had said. He could do that. He was good at protecting things. When their barn cat tried to climb up to the sparrow nest, he chased it away with a hose and had never tried that again. He would hold her hand when they walked to the school bus and teach her how to tell the good snakes from the bad ones. And when it thundered so loudly that their whole cabin shook and lightning lit up the sky for miles around, he would hide his own fear so that she would feel safe. By then, the baby sparrows had flown off, all but one that he had found lying stiff and cold at the base of the tree. When he had cried, his father said that was just nature's way sometimes, and together they had buried it and said a prayer. He had clung to his mother's skirt while his father half walked, half carried her to their car. They told him not to worry about the blood that trailed from their doorway. Soon, dusk would begin to cast shadows like ghosts across their land. Still, he waited. This next piece was written in one of Meg's workshop, as actually most of these pieces are. So this is called A Lobster Walks Into a Laundromat. None of the women could recall when the lobster first appeared, his large claws clacking against the floor as he folded his laundry along with the rest of them. He would arrive on Mondays, 9 a.m. sharp, dragging a small cart brimming over with mostly napkins and tablecloths and smelling of butter. While not much of a talker, every so often a sound like that of a bow across the strings of a violin would emit from him. And though the women weren't clear about its meaning, they were charmed nonetheless. On occasion, one of them would swear that he'd winked at her and blush at the flutter it aroused. It had been years since any of them had been noticed in that way, and they had grown complacent about cosmetics, drab about dress, haggard about hairdos. But on Mondays, lipsticks with names like Crimson Crush, Potent Peach, and Orange You Hot would shine from newly painted lips, and the scent of Aquanet would hang in the air. Between wash and rinse cycles, the women would vie for the lobster's attention with tips about stain removers and fabric softeners, and the lobster would listen, attentive, as if they were spouting sonnets or Shakespeare, and each woman would feel special and seen. And they would return to their homes and husbands, lusty with demands the husbands would not understand, but would nevertheless acquiesce to until about Thursday, when the monotony of their days would cause the women to forget themselves once again. And then just one more short one. Oh, and they all have, you probably can't see that. Anyway, every story has an illustration. This is called Eventide. Your face is the first to fade from memory. Still your voice, a bow caressing the strings of a cello, holds me close. Your scent, evergreens dipping to the seashore, calms me on days when I cannot locate your name. I am running in the woods that stretch across the hilltop behind our homes, skinny legs and brand new kids, my ponytail sailing behind. Leaves crunch beneath my feet as woodland birds take flight in our path. Fingers of sunlight reach through branches heavy with pine cones that will one day decorate a mantle hung with stockings bearing chocolate, nuts, and oranges, children's names we will choose together, names that now reside only with you. I laugh and run fast ahead, fast enough for you to give chase, but slow enough that you will always catch me. And you always have caught me, taken my hand in yours, and guided me home. But now I drift to where you cannot follow, where I am lost even to myself, and the sun must bow to the rising moon. A nightingale sings at my window. At my bedside, the photo of a young couple in wedding attire, beautiful strangers. I had a beau who looked just like you once. Dance with me, you say. Thank you.
You, Jayne. Those are so beautiful, and like what a treat to hear them again.
Thank you.
We know where we can find you when not in California. You're in Paris.
That's true.
Where can we, lucky you, where can we read more of your work?
It's pretty much all on the website, Jayne Martin -writer.com. And yeah, pretty much there. And then it is still for sale on Amazon. So give it a home if you feel so inclined. And thank you.
It's the anniversary.
Yes, yes, you gave me a really lovely blurb too, and I so appreciate it.
It was an honor.
So thank you.
Thanks, Jayne. Next up is Robert Shapard. Robert Shapard's Bear, Anna, and Other Stories comes out in February from Regal House. It won the 2022 W.S. Porter O. Henry Prize for a collection, in this case, mostly flash fiction. See his stories in New World Writing, Fractured Lit, and Bending Genres. He lives in Austin, Texas. Welcome, Robbie.
Okay, thank you. I'm so happy to meet everybody. I'm representing the ball slash people, but my dermatologist says keep your cap on, so I will. Okay. This is somehow I think these three pieces, they fit inside 6 minutes, fit together, at least in my mind. I put them under the title Place of My Heart. The first one is Turtle Creek. At midnight, the sun, sorry, I got to start over. At midnight, the rain had stopped. We all heard the bang of impact. Then the police were at the door. Some people panicked and ditched their drug of preference, Oxy, Molly, Special K. On the front porch, somebody said they heard a scream before the impact. Someone said it was a girl on a scooter. Another said a guy was holding on behind her. We walked downhill to the bridge, which spanned the creek at the end of the block. The wreck scene was strobing like red and blue disco lights, fire truck, EMS, police cars. A halo of plastic and metal bits glittering where the scooter hit the bridge. The crushed remains of the scooter were there, but no girl or guy. Probably they'd flown over the rail into the creek and been swept away. We never knew who they were. The creek was thundering. It was the end of summer. A lot of us went on to college, which a lot of us didn't finish. Years later, the drowning was all some of us remembered from high school. The thundering creek, the cops, the strobing lights, the drugs, the summer rain starting again, washing us all away. The next one is called The Gym. The gym is vast and almost empty, echoing with recorded piano music. A little girl with black hair wearing a leotard so black it makes her arms and legs look shockingly bright, moves in perfect synchrony with the music. She's graceful, obviously, like a reef plant swaying in the tide. Her diagonal run across the floor ends in a series of flips, impossibly, dangerously high for one so young. But she lands perfectly on the piano's last note, her arms high in a victory V. It's her salute to the judges who are not there. Above her, three older women walking together on the elevated track have stopped to watch. The young man squatting in a corner of the exercise floor where he can observe must be her coach. He holds a cell phone up as if a number is going to appear on its screen like a judge's card. But no, he laughs. He's talking to someone and brings the phone back to his ear. He's missed her routine entirely. The gym is now a vast cavern of silence, except for the hum of mounted wall fans. The girl, getting no response, walks to a long padded bench to join two older girls, also in black Leos. They're on cell phones too, paying no attention to her. Maybe they never do. The smaller girl sits apart from them. Without a phone, she looks around at the emptiness and gradually slumps, arms between her knees. One of the older women watching from above murmurs, "Poor thing." One of the other women says, "That's life." The third sighs, "Oh, I know, when the music stops and there's no one there." Below, eyes closed, the girl shakes her fingers out. Her hands begin to roll and flow in the same direction like a hula dancer's. Then her arms rise again in a V. The last one is called Port Lavaca. I'm not even sure it's a story, but someone told me it was. So I've never been in Port Lavaca, but close enough to hold it dear. It's on Matagorda Bay in the middle of the Texas Gulf Coast. between Louisiana and Mexico, or about halfway between Houston and Corpus Christi, with its world famous Christ the Redeemer statue, which is actually a plastic replica of the one in Rio de Janeiro, on sale at the last Fina gas station, still giving away pink air to fill your tires. Matagorda in Spanish means thick brush or the cane brakes that once lined the shore. Port Lavaca's got about 12,000 people. Guessing they've got barbecue beef ribs with a slight tang of salt sea air. There's lots of birds, 400 species that hang out there, not including a slew of migratory birds, and famous, dangerous, or is it endangered, whooping cranes. There's marinas and bars with fetters, window air conditioners, laying foggy cold air down on the pinball machines. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robbie. I was so lucky to teach with Robbie at Indiana University many years ago. It was such a delight.
Yeah. Can I show my book?
Oh, of
I've got
course.
this one's coming out. Is it?
My God, that's
Can you read
absolutely,
that?
yes.
It's called Bear Anna. It's not till February, but you can pre-order on
Hold it up
Amazon.
hold it up once more, Robbie.
Let's see if you there.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks wonderful. Congratulations again. I'm
It has
so excited about this book.
Thank you.
I
Thank you so much.
cannot wait. In the meantime, where's the best place to read more of your work?
Well, that's this was what I just read was in June and Bending Genres. Working on more. This is my very first book of my own stories. I've
Oh.
collected a lot in anthologies, but over the years, and I've published around over the years, but never had a chapbook, but never had a real
And I love
book.
your chapbook. I've owned your chapbook for a long time. I love it so much. I cannot wait. Congrats again.
Thanks.
Wow.
Thank
What a delight tonight has been. What great stories. I mean, just amazing. I'm gonna hand it back to you now, Francine.
Well, I think for me, the words for tonight or this afternoon, if you're in the States, is breathtaking and devastating and just really exquisite. Just beautiful, beautiful readings. Thank you to David Galef, Amy Marques, Andrea Marcusa, Claudia Monpere, Jessica Klimesh, Timothy Boudreau, Jayne Martin, and Robert Shapard. And it's just been a delight. And thank you so much. Thank you for making the Prose Garden what it is. Fun afternoon, evening. And we try to do this once a month. So we look forward to seeing you next month. And the recording should be up soon. If you can, if you haven't joined the Facebook group, The Prose Garden, please look for us. And in the meantime, as I always like to say on Zoom readings, thank you, good night, and drive safely. Bye now.